Liebe Freunde der Fotografie, mein Name ist Michel Birnbacher und Sie hören eine neue Folge meines Podcasts. Das Thema der heutigen Folge ist die Eröffnung der neuen Ausstellung in der Leica Galerie in Nürnberg, Semetko, Funny Business. Ich möchte Ihnen in dieser Folge schlicht und einfach den Mitschnitt der Eröffnungsrede des Künstlers Semetko präsentieren und vorspielen und Sie mit diesen Impressionen alleine lassen. Ich würde mich freuen, wenn Sie unsere Galerie in Nürnberg besuchen, zu den Öffnungszeiten kostenlos Eintritt. Alles Weitere finden Sie auch auf meiner Homepage www.birnbacher.com bzw. auf der Homepage des Leica Stores in Nürnberg www.leica-store-nürnberg.de, also Nürnberg mit UE geschrieben. Und damit genug von mir und viel Spaß mit der Eröffnungsrede von Semetko zur aktuellen Ausstellung in der Leica Galerie in Nürnberg.
Sure. Well, thank you all for coming in this freezing cold weather. I appreciate that. And thank you, Wolfram, for that, what I'm sure was a very good introduction. I'm sure it was excellent. You know, I apologize that my German is completely inadequate, non-existent, really. So I'm sorry about that, but I do have some fun with it occasionally. Yesterday, Wolfram asked me, he said, do you not know even one word of German? And I said, 9. And I think it confused him, which was very, very much fun. So, yeah, well, you know, the folks here at the Nuremberg store, I want to thank them all for being so wonderful in the short amount of time I've been here. You know, I know that they like to create a familial feeling here at the store, a family. The customers come in and they want you to be relaxed and welcome you and make you feel like family. And you've certainly done that for me in the last 24 hours. I feel like a member of the family already. So thank you very much, and I'm honored to be here tonight for the big event, which is really Jan's 28th birthday tonight. Yes, yeah. So happy birthday. He's humble, but it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Jan. What I'd like to talk about a little bit, and I won't speak long, but I want to give you my story because hopefully it will be inspiring to some of you. How many of you are photographers here in the crowd? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. There, too many are busy taking pictures. They can't raise their hand. All right. Well, so hopefully this will be a nice story for you to hear. I want to tell you how I came into photography and how I came into Leica photography in particular. It's a strange story and somewhat unique. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. For most of my adult life, I was a writer and performer of comedy sketches for large corporate events, okay? And in the early spring of the year 2000, I got a great job for Motorola, a 3-month job. I was playing characters. I was playing Austin Powers and Elton John and Julia Child. Yes, it was very much fun. And I was going to England, Ireland, Japan, China, and all around the United States. Now, some of these places I had never been to before, and I didn't know if I'd ever go there again. So I thought I'd better buy a camera. I was 39 years old, and I did not own a camera. I went and bought a cheap Nikon, went to overseas, and somewhere outside of Shanghai, I took a picture of these 2 peasant women in a canoe going up a stream. When I saw the picture, 2 things occurred to me. One was, I said, wow, that looks like National Geographic. I'm a great photographer. It really wasn't that great, but at the time, I thought it was great. But more importantly, when I saw the picture, it occurred to me that it was telling a story. And I said, you know, you're an actor, you have a lot of free time. Maybe I could use some of that free time to tell stories in a different medium. So being, you know, a good American consumer, I said, I need to buy a new zoom lens for this and I'll be a good photographer. That'll be the way it works. So I went all over Hong Kong to buy a zoom lens for this thing, and I had a lot of trouble. I didn't know what gray market was. I really didn't know what I was doing. And one guy even kind of yelled at me. I was in one store, and I asked this gentleman for a zoom lens, and he dismissed me, and I saw Leicas sitting over in the corner, but I didn't know what they were. I'd never heard of them, and I didn't even know how to pronounce it. I said, what are those Lisas over there? And he goes, no, it's Leica. You're saying it wrong. He yells at me. He says, very expensive, very complicated, not for you. And I thought, wow, that's a good sales pitch. So I went back to America, and I went to this store in America, and I was next in line behind a woman, and she was about to buy a new camera. And she started talking to the salesman, and she said, I want to buy this camera. And he said, why this camera? And she said, well, because I've heard good things about it. And he said, let me ask you this. What do you like to shoot? Well, that was a moment of a revelation for me. It suggested there might be more tools, for different jobs. And I got very nervous and thought he might ask me that. And I said, I don't have an answer to that question. I'm going to go downstairs and think about it for 10 minutes. So I did. And I came back upstairs. And when it was my turn, he said, what would you like? What can I do for you? I said, I'd like to buy this zoom. And he said, well, that's a nice zoom. Why that zoom? I said, well, I've heard good things about it. And he said, well, let me ask you this. What do you like to shoot? And I said, wow. What are the odds that you would ask me that question? I was just downstairs thinking about that. And I like to shoot people, and I travel a lot. And just like Satan himself, he said, have you ever thought about a Leica? I went, yeah, they're very complicated, very expensive. Not for me. And he said, here, try this on. And he gave me an M6 TTL. And I went, the fireworks all went off. I said, wow, what is this? And he said, that's a Leica rangefinder. And I said, well, tell me about it. So he told me all about the rangefinder. And now you have to understand, I was prepared to pay about $1,000 for this zoom lens. As an actor, I was having a very good year. That was a lot of money to me. It still is a lot of money to me. But then it was, 17 years ago, a real lot. I said, so this is really a cool camera. How much is this? And he said, at the time, I think it was $2,000. I said, $2,000? You're kidding. He said, no. And you'll need a lens. I said, okay, I don't make decisions like this. I need to think about it. And he said, I understand. He goes, here, take these brochures, go home, you won't sleep tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow. I said, now that guy has a sales pitch. You should use that one. Anyway, he was absolutely right. I went home, I put it on my bedstand, I woke up every 2 hours, and I looked through this whole thing, and I fell in love with the work of some guy named Henri Cartier-Bresson, who I had never heard of. And there was also an interview with him, and the interview was fantastic. I said, man, this guy sounds great. I'd like to be like this guy. And I went in the next day, I said, well, you got me. Here I am. I said, just please, tell me I'm not going to regret buying this camera. And he said, the only way you'll regret it is if you don't use it. I said, well, that sounds pretty fair to me. So I decided I was going to use the heck out of that camera. That was in 2000. From 2000 to 2007, 7 years, I was obsessed with taking photographs and obsessed with Cartier-Bresson and my Leica camera. I made a decision in there that I wasn't going to try to make money through magazines or newspapers. I was just going to shoot for myself and see what happens. I felt like I sort of had prostituted my comedic talent a little bit with corporate America, and I didn't want that to happen with this newfound love that I had. So in 2007, I got a snail mail, like a letter in the mail, with a newspaper article cut out from a friend of mine in Durango, Colorado. And it said, Craig, there's a new gallery here in town. I bet your prints would look great there. She knew I was a photographer. She goes, you should bring your pictures and show them to the gallery. See if they'll do a show. I said, okay, sounds good. Because it just so happened that my mother, who lives in Arizona, rented a house in Durango that summer, was going to for 3 months to get out of the heat. So I went to visit her, and I took some prints. I showed them to the woman at the gallery. She looked at them. She said, I like your work very much, but we're booked for the next 18 months. Stay in touch. And I said, okay, and I didn't, because that was a long time, and I'm not good that way. Anyway, 6 months later, I got an email from her saying, Craig, I really like your work. it looks like it's very much inspired by Henri Cartier-Bresson's work. She says, you know, we're doing a show of some of Cartier-Bresson's work, and I was wondering if you would like to show your work alongside the work of Henri Cartier-Bresson. My first gallery show was called Street Photography, From Classic to Contemporary, Henri Cartier-Bresson and Craig Semetko. Yeah, it was crazy. I can't explain it. So that was in July of 2008. 2009, actually, the gentleman who sold me that Leica is still one of my best friends to this day, believe it or not. He taught me how to use that camera. And I didn't know my f-stop, you know, from my elbow. And he said to me, dude, you need to, you know, do something with this. And I said, well, do what? And he said, take those invites and mail them to Leica. So I did. I mailed them to Leica. And to my amazement, Leica got back to me and said, wow, you are showing with Cartier-Bresson and you shoot with a Leica. Would you be interested in the possibility of showing at our gallery factory in Solms? And I said, yeah, sure. When do we do it? And they said, oh, well, I'm just asking if you're interested. We're not saying yes. It has to go through a gallery or a jury process. So I was a little nervous, but it happened. And then I showed in Frankfurt, and then in January of 2010, I had another show at the Leica Gallery in Salzburg, and in a room very much like this, very filled with people, a man came up through the crowd, he walked right up to me with his hand, and he said, hello, I'm Hendrik Tenois from Tenois Publishing. He said, do you have a book? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, I know, I looked you up on Amazon, you don't have a book. I said, I don't know why you asked me, but whatever. He says, would you like to do one with us? I said, okay. I didn't know who Hendrik Tenois of Tenois Publishing was. I thought he was maybe joking. I didn't know what it was. I said, sure, why not? And he looked around. I showed him my pictures. He said, you know, your pictures, they remind me very much of Elliot Erwitt. Do you know who Elliot Erwitt is? And I said, yeah, he's my favorite living photographer. You know, Cartier-Bresson had died a couple of years earlier. And he said, you know, we do Elliot's books as well. Maybe we could get him to do the foreword for your book that didn't exist 2 minutes earlier. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, that'll be fine. And well, true to his word, 9 months later, it was like giving birth. Where is it? There's one of them over here. 9 months later, someone's got the book, I'm sure. Yep, there it is. Unposed came out with a foreword by Elliot Erwitt. Unbelievable. Yeah. Thank you. So, you know, I tell you that story not to boast or to brag, even though it's a pretty good story. I'm pretty happy about it. I really tell you this story to give you inspiration, to let you know that, you know, no matter how old you are, you can have a new dream and it can come, it can come true. The reality is I didn't even have that dream because I had no inkling about being a photographer. I just thought I'd buy a camera and see what happens. But after a while, I did have a dream, and here we are today. So I just want I wanted to forward that story to you so that you can understand what it means to be passionate about something and go with it and see where it takes you in life. Because it will take you to some amazing places, believe me, that I've never, ever, ever dreamed of. So again, thank you for coming out tonight in this freezing cold weather, and more Glühwein for all. Merry Christmas.